The people who hate Christian culture descend into behaviors that destroy everything good in life. We see this in the culture of death, promoted by the left. Violence, mass murder, destruction of free speech, abortion, euthanasia, transgenderism. The list is a long one. Marx expressed hostility to the traditional family in the Communist Manifesto and predicted its destruction. And if Marx's assault was not enough, we see it from the progressive pagans of the modern West. The latest iteration is polyamory, marriage between three people. The dictionary definition is the practice of engaging in multiple romantic relationships simultaneously with the consent of all parties involved. In parts of Canada, it's been taken up by the court system as judges in Newfoundland and Labrador, British Columbia, and Quebec have recognized the existence of couples composed of more than two parents. The advocates of polyamory base their arguments on claims about human evolution. Since the great apes are not monogamous, we don't need to be either. So, is there anything wrong with polyamory? Since CNM, consensual non-monogamy, is rare, there are not a lot of studies on it, and there are already wild variations on how it is practiced. Each throuple comes up with its own agreements and standards and defines the relationship the way they want to. Let me make a prediction. Breakups and cheating are going to be routine features of this form of planned paganism. The basic assumptions of polyamory and academic advocates are wrong. We are not chimpanzees. We are not gorillas. We are spiritual human beings, created in the image of God, and as such, our family functioning is very, very different. Most importantly, alternative family forms are a disaster for children, a group no one seems to really care about. One time, a sociologist at UC Boulder invited me to speak in his human sexuality class. I was to defend the Christian view of sexual morality before his 100 or so students. His class generally rejected my view, and many were angered by it. It was instructive that two girls came up after the class and told me they were grateful for my presentation. They were being pressured to have sex by their male companions, but believed it to be morally wrong. The professor said that in the next class after mine, he had presenters who were into the swinger scene, multiple sexual partners, and a general environment of infidelity. He said that one of his students asked them where children fit in all this. The answer was simple: they don't. In Christianity, the primary purpose of marriage is to create, nurture, train, and raise the next generation. In the pagan view of marriage, children just get in the way. We already know the consequences of a polygamous society, which polyamory aims to repeat. A writer in National Review said, quote, "Members of the offshoot sect of Mormonism that continues to practice polygamy are just a handful, probably not more than 50,000. But they're the opposite of our stereotypes of law-abiding, industrious Mormons. In order to sustain the system of polygamy, the faithful are kept from going to college or even finishing high school. When they become rivals to their fathers, boys are forced to leave the area where they have grown up, and girls as young as 12 are pressured into marrying older relatives. The leaders of the sect are more apt to be known for their criminal convictions than for corporate startups, and nearly all the members of the community are desperately poor." End quote. The author goes on to say, quote, "There is no advanced society anywhere in the world based on anything except monogamy." End quote. My guess is the same is true for polyamory. Take, for example, the statistics on child molestation, as they are affected by these creative marriage arrangements. One famous study, published in 1984, revealed that stepfathers were 8 times more likely than biological fathers to molest the stepdaughters they were raising. The researchers found that 1 in 6 women brought up by a stepfather was molested. In my recent research, those numbers hold up today. Once you mess with the traditional marriage bond, bad things happen. The polyamory fad is a natural extension of the decision of the Supreme Court in 2015 to legalize gay marriage. There is a movement now to challenge that decision. Justice Clarence Thomas said of the original decision that it was a legal fiction with no basis in the Constitution. The movement has called itself Greater Than and is built around the idea that the needs of children are greater than the preferences of adults. The 2015 decision attacked the most child-friendly institution in world history, monogamous marriage. That needs to be undone for the sake of the family in the future and for the sake of children. Consider the logic. If gay marriage is acceptable, then every other form of marriage has to be. Polyamory, polygamy, throupling, giant families produced through surrogacy, and so on. All have to be accepted, and all are beyond question socially disastrous. The answer is to return to the traditional family, the one described in Genesis 2, and the one that has been consistently the basic unit of Western culture. Katie Faust observed in The Federalist, quote, "The problem is that biology itself draws discriminatory distinctions. Children are most likely to thrive when raised by their married biological mother and father." End quote. Family law should reflect that sexual difference is essential to child development. In other words, kids need both a mom and a dad. She concludes, quote, "Children are the overlooked casualties of a legal regime that has elevated adult desire over biological and development reality." End quote. The Bible has given us very clear instructions on how the family is to operate. For 2,000 years, Western culture followed those prescriptions. It brought about enormous prosperity and well-being. We need to return to those prescriptions and reject the left-wing paganism that would destroy our culture that has brought us so much blessing.